It's 5:42 a.m. on the 3rd of November 2025. The sky above the southern Caribbean is still gray when the calm sea breaks without warning. Inside the radar room of the USS Gerald R. Ford, one sharp alarm cuts through the quiet. A cluster of fast-moving contacts appears on the screen, heading straight toward the carrier group. No one speaks at first. The only sound is the steady pulse of the radar and the low hum of the ship pushing through the water. On the bridge, officers lean forward as the contacts grow brighter. Every sailor knows the Ford is close to Venezuelan waters, a place where a small mistake can turn into a real crisis. A second alarm rises, longer and deeper, echoing across the passageways. Someone whispers, "What is that?" But no one answers. The contacts speed up. The destroyers around the Ford tighten their formation. The moment feels heavy, like the air itself is waiting. Then everything goes still for half a second as the crew watches the screen. What is coming toward them? The Ford is not here by accident. For weeks, US satellites and Navy patrols have watched unusual activity along the Venezuelan coast. This stretch of water is one of the busiest and most dangerous routes in the Caribbean, a place where smuggling boats move fast and often armed, and where radar operators stay awake through the night because one small signal can mean trouble. That is why the Ford, the biggest carrier in the US fleet, was sent to this exact spot. But for the sailors on board, this mission is more than a map or a briefing slide. Some have family members working on cargo ships that cross this same region. Others have served here long enough to know how quickly a calm morning can turn into a real emergency. When they look at the sea, they are not thinking about politics. They are thinking about safety, survival, and how one wrong move could put thousands of lives at risk. In Washington, officials say the danger goes deeper. They accuse senior figures inside Venezuela of protecting a powerful criminal network that moves hundreds of tons of cocaine every year. According to them, this network is not just a drug pipeline. It is a source of money, influence, and corruption that spreads through the region and reaches foreign partners. To us leaders, this threat is not only about crime, it is about national security. That is why the Ford's arrival in early November was seen as a message. It showed that the United States is willing to place its most important ship in a tense area where every action is watched. It showed that the US is prepared to confront the problem directly, even if that means operating close to another country's coastline. Now, with unknown vessels racing toward the carrier group, the question is no longer why the Ford is here. It is what will happen next and how far this standoff might go. Inside the command center of the USS Gerald R. Ford, everything changes in seconds. The quiet morning turns sharp when the radar operator calls out a fast bearing. A watch officer repeats the number louder, and every sailor nearby freezes for a moment. On the main screen, the contacts that looked harmless a minute ago now shift from green to yellow, showing they are moving faster and closing the distance. No one knows who they are or what they want, but everyone understands how little time there is to react. The destroyers Gravely and Mason respond first. Their engines push harder as they widen their formation to shield the Ford. On each deck, sailors rush into position. Hatches slam shut. Hands grip railings as the ships turn. A petty officer on Mason watches the screen and mutters, "They're cutting the distance again." His voice is low, but the tension behind it fills the room. On the Ford's flight deck, crews begin moving aircraft into ready spots. A Seahawk helicopter powers up, its blades cutting the air as it prepares to lift off. On the bridge, officers look through binoculars toward the horizon, trying to pick out shapes moving along the waterline. The contacts are small, fast, and holding a direction straight toward the carrier group. A radio call cracks through the speakers. "Track and shadow. Do not fire unless ordered." The line is calm, but the meaning is heavy. It tells the sailors that command wants control, not a mistake. One wrong decision here could light up the Caribbean. The boats push closer. On the radar, their signals flicker as they weave through the waves. A young technician watches the glow change intensity and feels the seconds stretch. He knows there are real people on those boats, and that makes every movement harder to read. Are they watching, testing, or planning something more? The Seahawk rises into the sky and moves ahead of the formation. Its camera locks onto the targets. The feed shows narrow boats riding fast across the surface, leaving white trails behind them. They are close enough now that the Ford's crew no longer needs radar to understand the risk. Then a final command comes over the radio. Firm and direct. Hold positions. Wait for confirmation. Everyone listens. Everyone waits. And the next move belongs to the unknown boats cutting toward the carrier group. The fast boats keep moving in, and the destroyers feel the pressure rising with every minute. Gravely shifts left to block one path, while Mason moves right to guard the Ford. Out here, even a small turn can decide who controls the moment. Their engines push steady, and tension spreads across every deck. Above them, the Seahawk circles high with its camera locked on the incoming boats. From the air, the vessels look even sharper, bouncing over the waves in tight lines that hide their true direction. The feed streams into the Ford's combat center, where sailors crowd around screens, following every shift of movement. For a few seconds, the sea grows quiet, almost too quiet. Silence like this is never calm. It means someone is waiting for the perfect moment to act. Then, one of the boats angles slightly toward the Ford. It is a small move, but enough to make shoulders tighten across the bridge. Officers call it out. A crewman grips the rail as the range number drops again. Many on board have been on alert for days. Their uniforms smell of fuel and salt, their eyes tired from long hours staring at screens. But no one steps back. They know how fast a harmless shape on the water can turn serious. On Gravely, a petty officer reports, "Target adjusting speed." A short pause follows before command replies, "Hold formation." The destroyers tighten their screen, forcing the boats to the outside edge. Then the radar picture jumps. A cluster of signals flashes for a second, a classic distraction move meant to overload sensors. The operators recognize it instantly. It is not an attack, but a test to measure how quickly the US crew reacts. The Ford answers with a slight turn to open more space. The ship rolls through the ship. On deck, crew steady themselves. In the radar room, technicians reset filters and watch the contacts settle again. The boats finally slow and stop closing in. They hover at an uncomfortable distance, close enough to watch, but far enough to deny intent. It is the typical move in a tight encounter. Push, pause, and wait. Their formation loosens. They drift apart, not retreating fully, but no longer pressing forward. The first wave of tension eases, yet everyone knows this pause can break at any moment. If you think they were testing the US on purpose, press 1. If you think it was only a bluff, press 9 and follow the next part. Just as the destroyers settle into their positions, the fast boats make an unexpected move. Without warning, they begin to slow down. Their wakes fade, and the aggressive pattern they held for the last several minutes softens almost instantly. It is not a retreat, but it is a deliberate shift, the kind that makes every trained eye on the Ford pause. Boats that move this way are not confused. They are calculating. From the Ford's bridge, officers watch the change closely. The boats now hover at a steady speed, keeping just enough motion to stay unpredictable. A few sailors think the danger is passing, but the older crew members know better. Real threats often hide behind a quiet moment like this. Then the twist becomes clearer. A technician in the radar room notices something odd in the data. One of the earlier signals that pulled attention west does not line up with the rest. It flickered, then vanished too cleanly. It was not a real contact. It was a decoy reflection, likely meant to pull the ship's eyes away just long enough for the boats to get closer without being fully tracked. The timing matches perfectly. Whoever commanded those boats knew how to play with radar. On the bridge, the discovery spreads fast. The officers exchange short glances. No one panics, but the room grows colder. The boats drifting ahead are not random patrols. They have been testing reactions from the first moment they appeared. The Seahawk confirms what the radar hinted. The boats are now spreading out with slow, careful movement. They are not fleeing, not attacking, but repositioning in a way that hides their intentions. It is a tactic used when someone wants to measure how tightly the US is willing to hold its line. For the Ford's crew, the twist is not the slowing boats. It is the realization behind them. Someone on the other side wanted this encounter to happen exactly this way. Someone wanted to see how fast the carrier group reacts, how far the destroyers will move, and how long the US is willing to stay in high alert. The men and women on board feel it settle in their stomachs. This was not an accident. It was the opening note of something larger, and they know it. The moment the crew begins to understand the radar decoy, a second alert hits the Ford's command center. A satellite feed shows activity at a Venezuelan airbase. Heat signatures rise around several aircraft, and ground crews move quickly between them. No one knows if a launch is coming, but the timing is too close to ignore. Two signals of pressure appearing this close together are never random. On the Ford's flight deck, everything shifts at once. Jet engines rumble to life. The smell of fuel hangs in the cold morning air. Crews guide aircraft into position, securing weapons with fast, practiced hands. No one wastes a word. When the deck officer raises his arm, every sailor knows exactly what that signal means, and the entire deck becomes a synchronized machine ready for takeoff. Inside the bridge, officers split their attention between the satellite images and the sea ahead. The fast boats that slowed earlier are still drifting, not advancing, but not backing away either. They sit like pieces waiting for the next move. Now, pressure comes from both the coastline and the waterline, tightening around the carrier group like a slow clamp. A short radio call breaks the silence. Stand by for possible launch. It is calm, but the meaning is sharp. Deck crews tense. Officers lean in. The destroyers adjust their formation, creating a shield around the Ford. Gravely edges forward. Mason watches the flank. Then a bright flash appears near the coastline, reflecting off something metal. For a few seconds, no one moves. It might be a sensor, a radar dish, or simple sunlight. But at a moment like this, even a reflection feels like danger. Suddenly, the heat signatures at the airbase fade. Engines shut down. Activity stops. Someone on the other side chose not to push further. On the water, the fast boats remain still, as if waiting to see what the Ford will do next. Everyone on board feels the weight of the moment. One mistake could spark a wider fight neither country wants. The carrier's crew stays ready, the destroyers stay tight, and the command center waits for the next signal from sea or sky. If you think the Ford should hold firm in this kind of standoff, press 1. If you believe stepping back would avoid a bigger conflict, press 9, and follow us into the final part. When the engines at the Venezuelan airbase shut down and the fast boats stopped pushing forward, the Ford strike group stayed tense. The quiet that followed did not feel safe. The destroyers held their tight screen. The Seahawk circled above, and the radar room watched every small signal, waiting for something to return. Only after hours passed did the boats drift away. Their slow exit looked intentional, like they wanted the carrier group to see them go. The Ford stayed on course, firm and steady, showing no fear and no rush. Gravely and Mason eased speed but remained ready in case the boats turned back. By midday, reports from the region started coming in. A smuggling boat was intercepted near a remote island chain. Another suspicious vessel was stopped farther east. The timing was too close to ignore. The standoff near the Ford had pushed other actors across the Caribbean to move, hide, or test boundaries. In Washington, radar logs and satellite clips moved quickly through defense agencies. Analysts noted the false radar echo, the quick burst of airbase activity, and the way the fast boats shifted formation. None of it felt random. It looked like a coordinated probe meant to test how the US responds when pressure comes from more than one direction. For the Ford's crew, the aftermath felt personal. Many replayed the moment the boats angled in, or the second the radio ordered them to stand by for launch. They knew how close the situation came to crossing into something bigger, and they understood it would not be the last close call. The Caribbean had changed. Small encounters now carried heavy meaning. Strategically, the message was clear. The Ford's presence forced every watcher on the coastline to reveal intentions. The carrier group did not fire, but it showed readiness and discipline. and those observing learned the United States would stand its ground. As the day ended, the Ford continued its patrol through open water. The sea looked calm again, but the crew knew better. Calm here never lasts. The next contact could appear at any moment, and they were ready for it.